Peace and love, people. Welcome back to the Power to the People's podcast, the People's Radio, your nonstop shop for Black excellence, mental health awareness, and financial freedom. We have a lot to unpack today, but I want to go ahead and give a brief recap of what we talked about last episode. What we talked about is the root cause problem of mental health in our community and our culture, and a lot of things that was referenced is some things that cause that, like the Willie Lynch letter that we all reference. Again, if you guys didn't check out that episode, I highly recommend that you check it out, and then also get the Willie Lynch book. It also is available on YouTube, but we also talked about some things like redlining that also play effect into certain things as far as the oppression of our people to lead to those things as far as mental health. And then today we're just going to be talking about the surface level effects of those root causes things. So without further ado, let's talk a little bit about it, man. Mental health, let's define that one more time for the people. Mm-hmm. So if I was to define mental health, I would say that mental health is your overall well-being of your mind, right? How well someone's mind is, whether it's healthy or whether it's positive or negative, the overall well-being on how it is. So when you understand that aspect of mental health, it's very vital and important to your everyday life because it affects things that people aren't really aware of as far as how you function and things like that. And like I just mentioned, we're going to get into a few of those things. But what about you, man? If you was to define mental health, like, how would you define it, and how important do you think it is?
Well, honestly, it's really, really important. When I see here, if I like to look up, like, what is mental health, on Google, it says mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act, and it also determines how we handle stress relative to others and make healthy choices. I believe mental health, it goes not only just beyond like the way you think, but how you not only carry yourself and how you view yourself, like how you perceive your internal being. And the reason why I say this is because this is going to kind of go into the conversation about like depression. I feel as though like when people are really experiencing depression, it's really a place of like powerless. Like they feel like they're powerless, you know what I'm saying?
Okay, yeah.
They feel like they really can't change their situation, and that's why they kind of stay in that depressive state. I would say, we're going to give some tips and some advice that definitely help with mental health, but something that you could kind of think about is that you can only really control what you can control. And the only thing that you really, really can control is the way your thoughts process, right?
I agree.
And now what happens is that because people aren't taught how to properly think or how to properly view themselves or know themselves, their thought process isn't in the right way. It's kind of like a computer that has like a bad programming, right? It's not going to run all the functions that it needs to properly.
Absolutely.
So
I want to add on that. Also, if you're experiencing symptoms of mental health, like he just mentioned, it could be depression, it could be anxiety. Some people have bipolar disorder, whatever the case may be. I really want to hone in the fact that, anxiety means that you're thinking of the future a little bit too much. You understand what I'm saying? Your mind and your thoughts is just so focused on the future. And then depression is the opposite.
You're
thinking of the past, some traumatic events that happened in the past. You understand? Your feelings and emotions keep being drawn and flustered up because of some of the traumatic things that you experienced. And we're not faulting you guys. Every one of us experiences those things. But what we are doing is we're highlighting the reason why some people have these disorders and the reason why some people have these thoughts, because sometimes that can lead to suicidal thoughts. Sometimes that can lead to people not wanting to be here, or not understanding their emotional well-being and understanding their emotional state of being. So I think if we all have this understanding that being in the present moment with your thoughts and your emotions is one of the best states that you can be in my personal opinion. Why? Because you're in a state of bliss. You're in a state of peace, and you're just allowing yourself to be versus focusing too much on the future or focusing too much on the past. A lot of us are, focused on, I need to pay this bill, or, I need to make sure I'm on time to this meeting, or man, I don't want to feel this way again because my heart was broken into pieces and I can't allow anyone in anymore. You understand what I'm saying? We need to start visiting some of these traumas. You understand? We need to start opening a door instead of being so closed off, because how many of us really have that safe space to do so? I feel as though mental health is one of those things that's not talked about enough in the Black community, number one. And then number two, we don't embrace it enough, right? We were taught for so long to be this strong men and women, to be so strong to the point we ignore our mental health. You understand?
Yeah.
You know how much mental health a woman has? She may have children or she may have a job she's helping in a household with. And then she has to, catch up on that. She might be working in school and things like that. Then she's getting a lot of ridicule for being a Black woman. The same aspect with the Black man. But I'm talking about the Black woman right now. And I just feel as though when she doesn't have that safe space to really acknowledge some of the emotions that she's having, some of the impact, then it doesn't create a safe space for her. Same with the men. We need to start acknowledging these things and stop being so strong. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it's okay to be vulnerable and be weak as long as you have a safe space. As long as you have a safe space, for sure. But if you want to pick up on that?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think everything that you said was definitely true and insightful. And honestly, yeah, you saying the truth. Like, anxiety is basically like you kind of living too much in the future, and depression is you living and basically reliving the past, right? And you kind of think about, I could have done this better, and what it does is that it puts you in a frozen state. Right, it kind of like paralyzes you in a sense, and that's why people, when the signs of depression is like, they're sleeping a lot, or signs of depression is that they're not doing the same fun things that they used to do. It's because they feel like they're in that paralyzed state, right? That they really feel powerless.
Right.
And something that I could definitely attest that can help with that, because I've been a person who've experienced not more so anxiety, but more so depression, just due to the fact of like kind of looking at the past and thinking about like, dang, man, maybe I should have done this better. Maybe I should have done that better. One thing I want you to understand, that what's going to happen is going to happen, and it was probably meant to happen. Right. Not everything happens for like random reasons, right? I really don't believe in coincidence to a certain extent. And something that really helps, I've actually been reading this book. It's called The Power of Now. It's basically like a spiritual alignment book where it talks about a lot of times the reason why people are anxious, depressed, the reason why a lot of people, they feel like underappreciated, or like they feel like they can't really do nothing, is because they're too focused on the future. They're not living in the present moment, right? I see that. Because that's the only thing you really can control is the present moment. You can't control the past. You can't control the future. You can't control what this other person's going to do, what this other person views or thinks. All you can control is your action in that now moment. And what happens is that when you start focusing on what you can control and start focusing the present, now not only do you feel more powerful, now you don't really need to worry about the future anymore, because now if you do the right things right now, the future is going to line up how it's supposed to anyway. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like you all worried about trying to make it on time for this job interview, right? The job interview now a whole 30, 45 minutes away. The whole time right there in that 30, 45 minutes, you just think about the interview. What can you do right now to make yourself better prepared for that? You could just start researching about the company, right? You could start thinking about questions that they're going to ask you, right? What can you do now in the now present moment to kind of rid yourself from that anxiety?
Right. And then to add to that point, for that same example, somebody might be anxious, like, I really need this job. I might not get the job, things of that nature. No, prepare yourself. Like you said, prepare yourself. Make sure that you look up some of the questions that they may ask you. Make sure that your resume looks good and is aligned with the job opportunity and the position that you're trying to get. But I do want to pick up on the point that I was making, because I do feel as though a lot of people need to understand this. And what I mean by this is what I was just stating. When we are so mentally blocked on, having a safe space, or embracing the fact that, sometimes we do feel mentally weak, it leads to us disregarding some of our mental health problems. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
And
I think there's a bunch of reasons why that happens.
There's a bunch of reasons, but also Black men, I feel for you guys, because we feel as though there's no safe space for us to really get it all out, like really tell what's been going on, you understand?
Without being judged. That's what it is. Like, that's really what it is.
There's a lot of conversations going out there, and I read some of the comments. Some of them are true, some of them are a little far-fetched, but as far as like if you have a woman or something like that, you don't really want to tell her too much as far as your past, because she may use it against you later on. You understand what I'm saying? Now, there are women who do that, and we want to hold you accountable. for the women who do that, because that's coming out of bitterness. It's already hard enough for men to open up. You understand what I'm saying? And if you do allow that open space for us, don't use it against us later on, because then it's just making us not want to open up anymore.
No,
you understand what I'm saying?
And facts, and I definitely want to challenge that to an extent though, because I believe that I believe to an extent that may be one of the reasons why relationships aren't working as much as they are, because respectfully, right, we love, our Black sisters, but respectfully, like, they haven't really been taught how to be good girlfriends and good wives.
Some of them, yeah,
some of them, right, because that was never like portrayed, whether it was on movies or whether it was in a conversation in the household. You know what I'm saying? What was really mostly the conversation was get good grades, stay out of trouble. Right, we never really had, like, for me personally, right, my parents, they never really sat down and had a real conversation with me about, if a woman's crying, right, don't think about just giving her the solution right then and there. Sometimes she needs to let it out, need to vent first, and then we could start thinking about solutions, right? A lot of times we just get in this mode of solutions as guys, and then they might not feel fully felt. You know what I'm saying? And now it's like, okay, were you really listening? But the thing is that we have to really understand that we're very different, right? Sometimes a guy, he don't really want to talk about his feelings because he don't really know not only how is it going to be reciprocated, but he doesn't really know how to navigate his feelings sometimes. Very true. Because he never really was taught that, he was never taught that social skill. A lot of times, right, for me personally, right, I'll even share this. I had therapy at one point, and depending on what phase you are in your life or how you view yourself, is going to determine a lot whether therapy is going to work for you. And what I mean by this is that a lot of times when people go to therapy, they're venting, right? They're letting it out. And sometimes for a lot of people that helps, that really does. But then sometimes there are some people who generally just really want solutions on what they can do differently, right? To make them start feeling better.
A lot of men.
Yeah, a lot of men, you know what I'm saying? That's really, a lot of times that's really what it comes down to is like, they feel as though that, hey, if they just talk about it, they're going to just seen as weaker. If they just vent it out, they're going to be not only seen as weaker, or they're going to be like, oh, you can't handle this type of stuff. But I feel as though if we give them that safe space to allow themselves to express themselves, right, to vent, but also be able to provide real life solutions, now they're going to be more open to talking about their feelings.
I want to add on that point. That's a very critical point. That's very true. But also, how many men are taught, bro, get out of your feelings. Like, what are you in your feelings for? You understand what I'm saying? It's literally a stigma to Black men having emotions, which is natural in every single human being, whether you're a woman or a man. So this whole stigma needs to be killed and drawn out before we're even able to do that. Yeah. Because how many of us are growing up, and we may be, crying or something. A lot of us grew up with single moms, and some of our single moms had to be dads and say, boy, what are you crying for? Or if you grew up with a father, you understand what I'm saying?
Boys don't cry.
Boys is not supposed to cry. Now, don't get me wrong. You shouldn't be overly emotional, but to say that a little boy is not able to cry, you're taking away one of his emotions. Now he feels as though he has to be a hardcore, hard body all the time. Like that. And a lot of people need to understand that there's masculine and feminine energy in every single being. So for people to tell a little boy that he can't tap into his feminine energy, he's only operating on that one energy, which is masculine energy. And that can be detrimental later on in life when he's going through things and he's taught just to suck it up. He has a whole mental, blockage because of that. He doesn't know how to pinpoint his emotions because he was never taught to healthily let them out, right? So I also want to segue this into
before we move to a segue, I definitely want you to keep your point, right? Because I've been reading much about Stoicism, right, and what like the ancient philosophers really thought about when it came to Stoics. Okay. Sometimes when people think about a Stoic person, they think about somebody who's very emotionless, right? Somebody who kind of, it doesn't really let a lot of things get under their skin, and to the point you could even think that they're not expressive. But that's not really what Stoicism means, right? What Stoicism means is actually being able to have full control of your emotions and not allowing anger specifically to be your guiding or ruling emotion. Because anger is an emotion that there's very, very few uses for. Right. You know what I'm saying? There's very, very few uses for anger, because at the end of the day, it's just like water, right? When water is still, you can see through it, you can see your reflection, right, without a problem. But the moment that water is like being shaken up or being, like when the water is like bubbling, right, when it's boiling, you can't see nothing through that boiling water. It's the same thing with anger, right? When you're in the heat of the moment, right, you see red and you're not really thinking logically or critically. And I feel as though that is the issue that we're really, really having, that men, they're not taught how to deal with their emotions and how to control them. They're just taught the only emotion that you should feel that's okay is aggression
and anger.
You see what I'm saying? And to an extent, yeah, you should be masculine. Yeah, you shouldn't be a pushover. You shouldn't just let things get under your, you shouldn't just let things just like, sidestep you. But at the same time, there's a right place and a right time for every single thing. If you go to the club and somebody step on your shoes, right, regardless of a brand new shoe, are you going to get into a whole fight, a whole brawl, or a shootout over
something as minor as that?
You know what I'm saying?
I want to talk about that a little.
But then, see, this is what I'm saying though. I feel like there's an extreme to both ends. Now, imagine you go to that club, you somebody step on your shoes, you don't say nothing. You feel me? Like you don't even address it. Right now, you might start feeling weaker. You might start feeling like your ego was chipped at, because now it's like you just let that happen. You ain't even say nothing. You ain't be like, yo, bro, just watch out. Feel me?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
But that's not the right way to, in my opinion, to handle it. You could be joking about it. Like, hey, man, don't step on my shoes again or it's going to be a problem. Nah, I'm just joking with you, man. You good. You get what I'm saying? Something as simple as that. Like, you definitely want to address a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's bothering you, it's just how you do it.
Exactly.
What you said as far as how many people choose violence over something little as somebody stepping on their shoes or saying something triggering to the fact that they want to pull out a gun or they're going to start a scuffle. There's a lot of that in the community, bro. And I want to briefly talk about that for a second, because I feel as though if the curriculum was better in the school system, and we can only hold them to a certain extent because that's part of the system, and what we're doing is trying to empower you guys to rise above the system and do the research and gain the knowledge and practice these things that we're teaching yourselves. So imagine if we were taught emotional intelligence. Imagine if there was a whole class on that, and we were taught in different scenarios and different interactions how to properly guide and aid your emotions through something that might be triggering. For example, you might got a fresh new pair of kicks on. Bro just got the Jordan 1s, or you got the Bread 11s on. You understand what I'm saying? You looking fresh, you out at a club or a party, and somebody bumps into someone who has accidentally steps into your shoes. Now, I used to be the same way. I ain't gonna lie. I used to want to fight. I'm gonna be honest, bro. I used to be a little sneakerhead. I used to want to fight people, or like I just mean mugged them when they stepped on my shoes, and I would make them clean it off. You understand what I'm saying? Because why are you stepping on my shoes? This is something that's a part of me. I done spent so much bread on it, or my allowance, whatever the case may be. So I've been in that mindset. I understand. But if we had the emotional intelligence behind it, you understand what I'm saying? You wouldn't be as triggered. That was just an accident. Somebody pushed him and he happened to stumble into me and step on my shoes. It really wasn't his fault. So how can I fault him so much?
Yeah, you're ready to go to a whole war.
That's ready to crash out. Ready to crash out on a guy. You understand? Because it enraged and anger in me, because these shoes is expensive. You know what I'm saying? But like I say, I understand that. But if we were taught that aspect, how many of us could avoid certain things like jail time?
Facts.
Let's talk about in the household real quick. Not knowing how to properly handle your emotions, and your woman might be yapping a little too much and might be getting on your nerves, and you don't really know how to handle your emotions. For the fellas who aren't emotionally intelligent, and she's in your face, and then you happen to just let your anger out. You might yell in her face back, which is verbal abuse, or you might try to shut her up and lay your hands on her, which isn't the right thing to do. But it's because you don't have emotional intelligence to handle your emotional state of being.
Yeah, just for the audience, I really want to just define what emotional intelligence is, because I want them to know what emotional intelligence and what emotional control is. Emotional intelligence is being able to read your own emotions and somebody else's emotional state.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So it's like, a good example of emotional intelligence that as she, let's say, she's talking about something, right? And to you, it may be nagging. To her, it may be like a real issue, right?
Right.
Because everybody's perspective on things is very different. However, though, right, very emotional intelligent man would see, okay, I see where this conversation is going. I see that we're both kind of getting heaty. Something that he could say is that, hey, baby girl, I understand that this is very passionate to you, and this is probably something that we might not see eye to eye on right now. Just because I don't like where this is going, let's agree to disagree right now. Let's come readdress this at a better time when we're in a better headspace. Because a lot of times, like what anger is, and they talked about this, right, in Stoicism, what anger is, it's a falling anvil or a falling hammer, right? For somebody who don't know what an anvil is, it's like a falling weight. Once that weight starts falling, it's very hard to stop it because now it's being fueled by momentum, right? Which is gravity. So sometimes you got to catch yourself in that heat of the moment. You see where you about to go and catch yourself early on, right? And that's what emotional intelligence is. Emotional control, right? To the extent that somebody slaps you, right? But they're your superior in the military, and you know you can't just slap them because then you're gonna get kicked out. You see what I'm saying? So even though you know what he did was messed up, which is emotional intelligence, you know how you feel right now because you're able to read your own emotion, but you're controlling your emotions so you can address that at a different time at a better time. Because now he slaps you in the face, you go over his superior, he's getting demoted, and now you're his superior or he's getting kicked out because he's not supposed to do that. But if you just hit him back, now he's the superior, he could tie the story around, whatever the case may be. Right, this is the same situation as being pulled over by a cop. Right, you get pulled over by the cop. Let's say the cop, he probably might be in the wrong. He probably try to profile you, whatever the case may be. Somebody who doesn't have good emotional control, right?
Feed into that. They're going to feed into that.
Exactly. Again, like, man, you white guy, you racist,
fuck you and all that.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And then what happens is now you're getting thrown on the ground, you're getting pepper sprayed, he's calling the backup. Now you made the situation a lot bigger than it needs to, and now he can just mark up the charges. You just put a lot of control in his hand. But now if you just tell him, right, and this is going to be a real good tip for y'all, right? If you just tell him, okay, officer, I see what you're doing. Now I want you to understand, I understand the law very, very well. If this is fraudulent, what's going to happen is that we're going to go to court, right? I'm going to get a day off of work, right? Because it's going to be court. I'm going to get paid for it. You're going to need to come into the court. Right. The judge is going to look at this. He's going to be like, okay, you profiled me. This is stupid. He's going to throw it out, and now you're going to look stupid to all your other cop friends.
Right.
So do you really want to go down that route? I'll take the ticket, but you let me know if that's what you're going to do.
Right.
You do that, now you just put this cop in a very difficult position because now he's like, okay, this is a person who isn't going to just get flustered over something little, right? Am I willing to go through that whole process just for this whole ticket to get thrown out? Right. Because of course they got a quota, but if you make it easier for them to meet that quota, that's what they're just going to do that to the next black person again. You see what I'm saying? Now you just profile all of us. So I think that men understanding what emotional intelligence and what emotional control is definitely important, but also having that outlet for both, having an outlet for them to be able to express themselves, right? Be able to talk about how they feel, how they think about things, but also having a real physical outlet. Men, we're more physical. Like, if respectfully, right, you see people who have the most aggression are gamers. And the reason why is because, you might be playing the game, right, but you're not physically as active as you should be. So I definitely highly recommend that any man, right, either trying to go to the gym, trying to play basketball, soccer, football, right, get into something where you actually have like a real outlet. You see what I'm saying? Because now, like, okay, you're a lady talking to you a certain type of way, you feel me? You getting upset. Emotional controllers, instead of you going to the strip club, now you're going to the basketball court. Right. You dropping some buckets, you taking all that out.
Or you join boxing.
You join boxing. I bet 9 out of 10 you're going to come back home, you're going to feel a lot better. Absolutely. And she's going to be like, he was just mad. Yeah. Like, he all cool now. Right. But now you go to the strip club, you come back, and then she all in your face, and you're like, You see how just that one situation, depending on what you do with that emotional control, could be the biggest difference in that relationship dynamic. But it starts when they're younger, right? It starts when they're younger, and when they first try to express themselves, let's say their parent or their sibling, uncle, auntie, grandparents didn't allow that safe space, right? And now they hold on to that emotion in their adulthood. So when something comes up that's triggering again, let's say it's a dynamic between a man and a woman, then he's reminded of his 5-year-old self, or she's reminded of her 5-year-old self when she didn't have a voice to voice her opinion. And what happens is that little girl or that little boy comes out in that certain circumstance, in that certain situation. And what we're encouraging, you men and women out there who are listening to do is go revisit that 5-year-old little boy and little girl. Go mentally and I would say, like, literally spiritually, go ahead and meditate. This is what I've done before. Meditate
And imagine your 5-year-old self in that same exact scenario. Let's say afterwards you ran to the bedroom or whatever. Rub that 5-year-old's back and tell them it's okay on how you're feeling. You understand what I'm saying? And guide that little boy or little girl's emotional state. Guide them through, because you weren't able to have someone who's helping you through that at that time. There's a lot of people who don't even understand why they have certain triggers to this day. But I bet you 9 chances out of 10 has to do with their childhood and certain traumas and certain hiccups that they've dealt with that weren't voiced. And a lot of people don't even know what happened. You understand what I'm saying? Some people have, short-term memory, they don't really remember, but that's very important into how you're, acting in today. Just ask yourself, like, if I'm having a conversation and I'm sitting with someone and they say something and it's triggering, why is it triggering? There's something that psychologically happened back then that caused your, hormones in your body to be stressed and cause a chemical reaction so that you now hold on to that same exact feeling. Just let's think about certain things that trigger us. We get the same exact feeling as if it first happened. Let's say a heartbreak, for example. Someone who hasn't healed from that. You understand what I'm saying? Anything that, your current relationship is going through, let's say there was mistrust there, it's going to cause you to feel like that person doesn't love you as much because you haven't dealt with that area. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So before we're able to move forward, we do need to, I wouldn't say patch up, but we do need to revisit certain scenarios and certain situations that led us to have these chemical trauma-induced reactions, to the point that we still feel the same way as if it first happened when we're getting triggered in today's, circumstances and situations. What do you think about that? Is there, and I want to state something else as well. And this is a statistic that I feel as though a lot of people don't know, but statistically speaking, Black people are less likely to go get help and go visit therapists to sort out their problems, their emotional bondage and things like that. So when we have this statistic against us, we need to get to the cause root of why. Is it financially? Is that the reason? Is it because we don't acknowledge it as well? Is it because we don't prioritize our mental health and think that it's an important factor to our life and how we can operate on a day-to-day? Like, what's the real reason why we're not going to therapists? And I believe in therapy to a certain extent, but I think therapy could be what we're doing right now, as far as trying to navigate somebody on how they can go back in the past and heal certain traumas that have happened to them. You understand what I'm saying? Talking to a parent who you trust, talking to a best friend, a sister, or brother who you trust, and have a safe space with. You can have a therapy session. I do this with my mother all the time. You understand what I'm saying? Certain things that affect me, I let her know. She is very psychologically intelligent. You understand what I'm saying? She understands psychology and things like that. So myself, I'm also good with that. But like just having somebody to talk to, even some of my friends, it's just good to navigate that, right? I'm able to get some things out and then look at it from another perspective. So if we're not talking about some of our pain points, if we're not voicing some of the things that upset us and trigger us, then we're just really allowing our emotions to stay stagnant and stay stuck in our, chakras in our body. You understand what I'm saying? When you start to feel certain triggers and you start to, have stress on your body, it turns from psychological to physiological. Because when you're so stressed out, sometimes it causes chronic pain. Let's talk about it. Sometimes when your body is so stressed or when you're so emotional, you start to fall apart in your own body. You start to have pain in your back and pain in your legs. You start to have heart problems and things of that nature. Certain people just think it's your eating habits. No, it's also what you're feeding your mind, what thoughts you're entertaining. Right?
Yeah, I think even Dr. Sebi was talking about it, the mind and gut connection, where if you're in a stressful state, what happens is it makes your body more acidic. And guys, our body is more so pushed towards on the pH level of alkaline.
Right.
So, when you're stressed and your body becomes more acidic, what happens is that you're like literally like you're switching your pH level. You know what I'm saying? And then by doing that, that affects a bunch of other things, right? Like how your gut, processes food, right? How you sleep, right? Like a lot of things. And then if you stress from work, now you might be getting timely sleep, right? You might be getting quantity sleep, but you're not getting quality sleep.
Right.
And what happens then? Now your acidity levels is rising. Now your testosterone is going down. Right now, you're not even feeling more ambitious. Now you're not even feeling, you going to work, and you might not even like the job, and now you're not even thinking about, oh, how can you do what can you do to make this job even more fun, or what can you do to use this as a stepping stone to get somewhere else? You know what I'm saying? You're literally putting yourself in a destructive state instead of a productive and reconstructive state.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? When you're stressed out, and I think the problem is like kind of like what I was saying before, is that having that healthy outlet, but also really understanding what emotions are. You know what I'm saying? Emotions, listen, now this might trigger some people, but emotions aren't really real, right? And what I mean by that is that they're real as far as your actions, right? As far as it makes you feel, right? Your feelings is really real, but emotions is really a chemical effect in the mind. You see what I'm saying? Like if you get angry, that's a chemical effect in your mind, right? When you get sad, that's a chemical effect in your mind. And these are all things that can be turned off or turned on. And I think that's what people don't understand. They feel as though like when they're in the heat of emotion, their emotions is ruling them. And in reality, you have control of your emotions. Is the way it starts is the controlling of your thoughts. Right. Is the controlling of like how you see things. Because a person, two things can happen. The same thing can happen to two different people, but how they perceive things and how they view it by their thought process
Totally different.
Well, yeah, it would make the difference of how they react to the same situation. So I feel as though understanding and education is definitely a very big part in helping people develop better mental health and mental awareness. Because if you go to a therapist and you talk about like how you feel and what's going to happen, is they're going to give you like real logical tools that you have to implement yourself to get better.
Exactly.
You just
give you homework.
Yeah, they're gonna give you homework. Like they're gonna give you either a video to watch, a book to think, a book to look into, something to journal, right? Something for you to do the legwork, and I think that's really where change really starts, by us taking accountability and understanding that, okay, I'm where I'm at right now. How can I get to a better place? Me just talking to people, or me just, hanging around my friends, right? Me just being more social. Yeah, that's going to help you feel better. But you got to really do the internal work. You got to really do like the deep down work. Okay, like that. What's that called? Shadow work.
Oh, yeah.
That shadow work of really understanding who you are and what triggers you. Yeah. There's some people, they're cool working for the whole rest of their life. You see what I'm saying? Because, they don't want the stress of running a whole business. They don't want, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's true. And that's honestly perfectly fine.
Right.
But then there's somebody else who feel as though like they feel like they, I don't even say that they want more out of life. They feel as though that they're meant to do more,
work harder and do things for
what I'm saying? Yeah. And both perspectives isn't necessarily wrong, and both perspectives are to an extent good. But now what happens when one person who is comfortable working for the rest of their life, right? But they're being told, oh, no, you need to run a business. You see what I'm saying? They're putting that internal pressure. Yeah. So now their mindset is not in the right place because they don't really know themselves. But now imagine somebody else, right, who's trying to become an entrepreneur, trying to run their own business. And then everybody's telling them like, yo, why are you trying to do that, bro? Just get a job. It's safe. What, you see what I'm saying? So it's like two completely different people, but what they can hear, right, can definitely affect their emotional state. And I believe that's really where we need to come down to an understanding that, just because somebody says something, just because you see something on the internet, doesn't necessarily mean you need to identify with it. You really got to start learning, like, who are you as an individual? Yeah,
outside voices and outside opinions can throw you off if if you don't have a foundation strong enough to stand on when certain things are coming at you left and right. You understand what I'm saying? That's a very good point. And I want to interject right there because I feel as though there's a lot of chatter out there. There's a lot of noise out there, regardless of if you're a person who is outgoing and you post a lot on social media, or if you're a homebody and you're an introvert and you don't really interact at all. We're all going to hear different opinions. And I know everyone has heard this, but opinions are like armpits. Everybody has them, and they usually stink. You know what I'm saying? If you don't wear deodorant, right?
I heard opinions. I heard a different phrase. Opinions are like assholes.
I didn't want to say that. I heard that one too. But like, I mean, let's get real. Somebody's opinion shouldn't shape you. Now, if that person has a good heart and they're an intellectual being and they have something going for themselves, I mean, yeah, why not take what they say into consideration? It shouldn't make you change who you are and make you spiral out of control just because they said something that's totally opposite on what you think you should do. you should be able to filter out certain things based on what you're aligned with. And I feel as though people need to get to the core of who they are. Like, let's talk about, not to get spiritual or religious, but I do believe that people should build a relationship with God, because then they get to know themselves more. You understand what I'm saying? When you're involved in God in your everyday life, then you are walking in accordance with things to where your viewpoint is more, you're on point with things more. You see things for what they are more. If they're not aligned with who you are as a person, you can kind of wiggle that out. Like, okay, I'm not going to let that stir me the wrong way. Okay, I see this thing over here, right? I see that's not really for me, but this thing right here, okay, it's aligning where I'm going, right, with this foundation I have built. So I do encourage people to start to build their foundation, start to try to have some sort of practice, whether it's religious or whether it's spiritual, so you're connecting to a higher source, a higher being.
Yeah.
So that way that thing is governing your life, because that has to do with a lot of mental aspect as well. If you're not serving anything, if you don't have any faith in yourself or something higher than you, then I would say,
I want to add on to that.
Yeah, let's talk about
I want to add on to that, because I feel as though that's really where change can really start, right? Not only knowing yourself, because everybody's different.
Right.
You're a spiritual being in this physical body, right? Now, the thing about it, with that being said, is that, right, I'm not telling anybody to, become like a Christian, become a Catholic, or go to Allah, or go to Hamas and stuff like that. You feel me? What I'm basically saying is that when you feel as though that you're doing this by yourself, you're putting so much more unnecessary pressure on just being a regular human being like everybody else. But if you feel as though you have that spiritual backing, like you got somebody that's a higher power, somebody who's stronger than you, right? Guiding you, leading you, protecting you. You walk around with just a little bit. You walk around with your chest up a little bit more. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And it doesn't necessarily even have to be a certain kind of religion or certain doctrine, right? Even if you just meditate, you get spiritually aligned. You start meditating to your higher self.
Exactly.
That's another form of
spiritual practice.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. That's literally another form, right? Meditating and prayer is literally the same exact thing.
Same exact thing.
The only difference is that I feel as though prayer is when you're talking to God, and meditating is when you let God get to talk to you. You feel me? So I think having the duality of being able to do both is really going to give a good foundation to doing that legwork and getting yourself mentally aligned, right? Because
not to cut your wisdom, but I want to add on that, because when you do those things, right, you are being proactive and the progression of your life and the progression of your mental well-being getting better. So we're not just saying all this just to say it. Like, we're giving you guys direction on where it's rooted from and where it comes from. We talked about the things like going to certain places, like therapy is okay, or talking to a sibling or relative who has a safe space, that's okay as well. And getting it out is okay. But sometimes when that intellectual wise person has counseling and tells you direction, don't just let it go in one ear and out the other. Actually practice what they're saying, right? You have to take control of your life. We have to realize that we are in control of our lives. And once we realize this, it's really up to you if you're going to stay stagnant as a person, stagnant in your mental health, or are you going to be proactive and try to become the best person possible? And what that looks like is some things that you just said, as far as, connecting with God, praying, meditating, and then also I heard that journaling is very therapeutic as well. I honestly, I'm a little inconsistent with that, but I do it here and there. But it's definitely beneficial, I would say. So anybody who is out there who's trying to take control of their mental well-being or trying to take control of their life, you have to understand that you're the captain that's steering the ship, right? You have all control over what comes into your mind and how you're perceiving it. So if you want to change your lifestyle, if you want to change the way you're seeing things, then you need to change some of the ways that you're operating. You need to change some of the things that you're participating in. You need to change your appetite and what you're allowing into your body, your mind, your thoughts, the things that you're eating, the things that you're listening to, right? There's certain things that we need to do and that we couldn't do as people. We can't just be so much relying on a therapist. Even like we're talking about mental health right now, but all the therapist, like we said, is going to do is give you homework. So at the end of the day, you have to be, strong enough to do the legwork. I know sometimes we're in such tyranny that we feel as though we just need to sit and soak with our emotions. Very true at times. Let's talk about when people deal with death. You need to be able to grieve for a point of time, right? There is that time for people to grieve. However, there's also a time to build and plant as well, right? There's a time to do these things. So I do feel as though people need to take more control of their life, and they need to realize that they have the resources to change things around. It's all about what's in your mind. It's all about what you're willing to do and how you're
and what you're consuming. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
I heard this one quote, right, and I really want to. I'm really big on quotes. I'm really big on quotes. 'Cause I feel as though you remember quotes a lot better. You know, if you want your life to change, you have to change. If you want things in your life to change, you have to change things in your life.
Right.
Right. So what are you consuming on a day-to-day basis that is actually proactively practically making you a better person? Respectfully, right? Watch what you want, enjoy what you want. But for me, I'm not really too big on like horror shows and horror movies and stuff like that. I'm not really too big on it, just because, don't get me wrong, like, the storyline might be interesting, right? Which is cool, but I don't really want to watch something just to get scared. Right. Or just to feel in a phase of like
thrill or something.
Not even that, like paralysis. Like when you're watching a horror film, you on your edge, waiting for the jump, right? Waiting for the jump scare. So I know there are some. Hey, I'm talking to the ladies, right? I know there'd be some ladies that be watching some horror films, some of these drama and like crime shows, right? Of course, like what you like, watch what you like, but just be more conscious and more mindful of what you're watching, how it's affecting you, especially what time of day too. Like, I don't think watching horror films at night every single day before you go to sleep is healthy. I feel as though it could definitely put you not in the best headspace, right? And there's a lot of research on this too. That people who watch anime are happier people. Just due to the fact that, imagine what you see in anime. You seeing friends, you seeing people like reach their goals, right, or over accomplishing it. You see people sacrificing things about themselves to help somebody. There's a lot of good morals and values in anime. So I think the people who start watching it, listen. It's just research, right? Because anime is becoming more popular now, but you can kind of see it, right? The conversations, it might be a debate, but it's more of an uplifting conversation compared to, you watching a drama show, you're like, yeah, this person's a scumbag, they did this, you feel me? So I'm not going to tell you to go start watching anime, even though you should. It's just giving you an example of the difference in what the people are watching and how it affects their emotional state. You see what I'm saying? So when you go to a therapist, definitely telling you to go to therapy is good, because it gives you that space to just speak where you feel as though you won't be judged no matter what.
Right.
Because they're literally getting paid to not judge you. You see what I'm saying? To allow you to be able to talk and to give you real things for you to be able to do the internal work yourself. But imagine if you just start going to a therapist and you don't do nothing different in your life.
Exactly.
That therapy alone is not going to be the solution. Well, it may be for some people, right? It might. But what are the slim chances? But now if you go to the therapy and now you actually start really doing real different things in your life, that therapy is going to work 10 times better.
That's just like somebody listening to motivational videos each and every day, but you're not changing your lifestyle. You understand?
Exactly. What that does, that actually hurts you. Yeah. Because now you put in all this mental stress on yourself, right? You say you should be doing it. You're hearing the motivation, you should be doing this, you should be doing this. But then you're not actually doing it. Right. That's literally cognitive dissonance, right? Hearing and believing one thing, but doing or acting a different way. You see what I'm saying? Like that literally will conflict. That's not going to coincide. So you got to be able to, if you're, whether in a state of anxiety, whether in a state of depression, whether in a state of like hopelessness, the first thing that really starts is analyzing, okay, who am I? Right? How did I get here? And what can I do to change? Right? Not think about changing overnight, not think about changing within a month. What can I do right now on a day-to-day basis so a year from now I'm in a better place?
Let me ask you something, because this is something I forgot to mention as far as one of the other aspects or the other things that add to the fact that people might have trouble with their mental health or their mental well-being is their environment. And that's a big one.
I'm glad you brought that up.
That's a big one. So let me ask my question. Yeah, let me ask my question. So as far as the environment, what you just said, as far as if that person is practicing this, and that, what if they're living in an environment where it's, a concrete jungle? They're somewhere where they're like in Philadelphia, Jersey, New York, Pittsburgh, or, Seattle, where they don't really get a lot of sunlight throughout the year, right? There's a lot of rainy days. You're dealing with people who mean mug you on a daily basis for no reason, just for being a black brother or a black sister. And also some things that they have to deal with as far as, the opposite race looking at them a certain way or not acknowledging them and things like that. How can that person try to take on some of the things that we're saying while they're living in that environment where there's so much against them that they are crawling in their own skin?
I could attest to this a lot because I'm actually from Jersey,
And I'm from PA, Pittsburgh. Shout out to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, now we in the Sunshine State. Hallelujah for
Yes,
that. Because you can. It's funny, bro. It's funny, bro. Because I seen this video, right? And I think this is true. People in New York are mean, but they're nice. People in Florida, they're nice,
but they're mean. Yeah. Yo, that's so true, yo. I swear to you, bro.
You know what I'm saying? It's like the sunshine, like the the good air, the good weather. You know what I'm saying? So it puts you in a happier mood. But you still not gonna be that.
That's
it's just funny. It's just funny. I think what it does is that the environment. It's like kind of like when Napoleon Hill was talking about outwitting the devil. Like it's kind of like a yin and yang with everything. You know what I'm saying? And what I mean by this, I really want y'all to understand that there's a yin and yang to everything. There's a good and bad with every single situation, every single thing. You start a business, yeah, you're making money for yourself, but you got to deal with employees, you got to deal with payroll, you got to deal with tax. You know what I'm saying? Like, you feel me? Work a 9-to-5 job, right? Less risk. You feel me? All you gotta do is show up. You get a paycheck every single week. But yeah, maybe you gotta listen to your boss who might not be that great. You know what I'm saying? So there's a yin yang with everything. I'll give an example for the people living in New York, right? Above in those colder climates, right? You get in all seasons, right? Which is great. You get to actually feel what that cuffing season, like that love season, feels like when it gets a little bit colder. You get to stay inside, da da da. But what happens is that a lot of times that living in that colder climate, you might physically look like you're aging quicker because you got to deal with the cold, right? And that affects your skin compared to coming down here, right? In a warmer climate where, it might be a lot warmer, but since everything's spread out, you don't have the same family and social connection as you do upstate where your boy lives the 2 apartments down or two blocks down, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So there's a yin and yang with everything. Once you start becoming aware of this, then you start being appreciative of the yin, right? And then when the yang comes, you're like, man, this is just what I got to deal with. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, that's really interesting, man, because I know when I go to New York, I know somebody might be mean mugging me, but I know, man, he probably don't really mean that.
Yeah.
It's just that's what he has to do, so nobody tries him.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Because growing up north is harder conditions. Right?
Exactly.
You gotta kind of have that, kind of portray that tough guy look, so no one tries you as being a soft guy or a pushover.
Exactly. You see what I'm saying? So I really do understand that. I really get it. But it's like now when you become conscious of that, then that's how you can walk down the street, mean mug somebody, but the moment you see somebody who seems cool, you give them a smile, and now it's like, all that tension just got, all that tension is evaporated.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot into that, which is it's funny that you brought that up.
I think with the environment, bro, that mental toughness that you got to have, that being on guard, the stress on your body is increased tenfold. I mean, even when I go to visit up, back home sometimes, you know what I'm saying? I'm my good energy self, and it's like, hold on, I can't get caught thinking like, you feel me? I'm one of them people, like, I gotta kind of smile a little less, and it sucks. You get what I'm saying? Because, I feel as though somebody might try to try me. Like, oh, this guy, he's sweet. Let me see what he about. You understand what I'm saying? And nah, that's not the case.
And I think that really stems from like maybe middle school, high school.
I think it's that barbaric mindset, bro.
Barbaric?
By barbaric mindset. And what I mean by barbaric, I grew up in I would label it as an inner city school where, it was a lot of minorities there, a lot of black people or whatever. Yeah, we would do like, silly things around the school and things like that. It would be a lot of fights and things. But as far as how you had to portray yourself, you couldn't be seen as a punk. You couldn't be seen as a pushover. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So from as an early age, you had to know how to, you had to have thick skin, right? You had to know how to rip or rank or whatever y'all say, how to flame somebody. Well, you get what I'm saying? You had to have certain things to where it didn't affect you as much. But the barbaric mindset we had is, I guess we didn't really have emotional intelligence at all. We didn't have social intelligence. Like it was funny growing up, up north. But
And I think you learn in certain situations though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And what do I mean by this is that I definitely don't want to forget this point. I probably should have wrote it down somewhere, but something that used to happen like in middle school and high school, like if you was a middle schooler, you would walk home, there's a chance you could probably get robbed on your way home.
Mm-hmm.
Just because a high schooler walking down the street asks you what time it is, you pull out your phone and boom, it's lick time. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So what happens is that you develop either that mean mugging look, right, or that that habit of looking behind your back as you walk.
Right.
This is real stuff, right? Like that you don't hear in these rap songs, right? Like when you grow up in these inner cities, like what it's really like. So what happens? You learn to develop that mean mug. You learn to develop that thick skin. So if kids try hiking on you, you either can hike back or it doesn't affect you,
Right.
or you learn how to move in groups, right? You learn how to start having that one friend, that two friends that you walk home with every single day. Even your parents tell you, hey, walk home with your friends.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So the environment is very, very important because imagine a kid who grew up and they never had to experience that at all. They're gonna go out into the world and not being as cautious compared to somebody else who did.
With zero street smarts.
Street smarts, right? The yin and yang. Now, what I want people to understand, right, and this is what's important because your environment, to an extent, most of the times it is something that can be changed. And what I mean by this, for somebody who's saying that, oh, I live in my house, right? My parents, they always up my ass about some shit, they always, talking down on me, stuff, right?
You can be that rose that grows out of the concrete. Like
you definitely can. You definitely can, right? And I think it is tough. I'm not gonna lie, it is tough because you have to now overcompensate. You have to be even more bubbly. You have to even be more loving. You have to be even more expressive.
You got to nurture yourself even more.
More
intentional with that.
Yeah, more intentional to make your parents kind of change how they not only perceive you, but how they treat you, but also to an extent, right? I'm not telling somebody, move out your parents' house, right? Changing your environment a lot of time is key. Changing your environment sometimes might be what you need to do. But remember, your environment isn't just what's around you. Your environment's also in your mind too, right? Sometimes, right, I got to a point, bro, where I started living in the basement. Right? And my parents, I started living in the basement because I wanted that separation where, okay, now I'm in the basement, no matter if it's dark, no matter if it don't smell the greatest. Now at least I don't have yeah in my hair all the time.
Yeah.
At least now I'm not listening to Haitian gospel music every day. You know what I mean? And now I can start kind of creating my own environment in my head, even if it's darkest out in front of me. You see what I'm saying? So I know we're saying a lot, and this is definitely just going to be the start of this conversation because mental health isn't something where you go to one therapy session and you're fixed. Right? It's not just, one convention or one sit down, one talk, and then you're good, right? This is definitely an ongoing thing that that us as Black people, that we're definitely going to need to work through.
I agree.
Because I think we're the ones suffering the most just due to the fact that we didn't have the financial resources to be able to afford therapy. We didn't have the social support to tell people like, hey, bro, like you seem real angry. Like, I think you should go talk to somebody. You know what I'm saying? Or like, hey, love, hey, sweetheart. It seems like, you've been real negative, right? Like, I feel as though a lot of times we focus a lot on the negatives because of how we had to evolve as human beings. We had to watch out for predators. We had to watch out for poison berries. We had to literally focus more on the negative, right? There's this book called Rewiring Your Brain. It's really good. And it talks about how evolution, we had to focus on these negative aspects in nature to protect ourselves. But now that we have predators are away, right? Now that we have, we know what's poisonous, right? And what we do eat, what we don't eat. But our brain still is wired as the operating back then. You see what I'm saying?
Look out for those things like that.
Look out for those things. So why do people watch the news so much when most of the news, 80% of it is negative?
Right.
It's because of how our brain is wired to focus on the negative. But what you focus on grows. So as you're focusing on the negative so much, you start developing a more negative and pessimistic mindset.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? That's why for me, I don't really watch the news. I'm not gonna lie. I really don't really watch the news, but I'm tapped in for sure.
Yeah,
I'm tapped in.
Yeah, got you.
Because what I do is I just need to know the information and what happened, and then I move on.
Exactly.
And I'd rather know what's the positive things that are going on. Right? How are things making progression?
Or how could it affect you? You get what I'm saying? That's something to, kind of grab if something is very impactful, and if it's affecting you, that's something to look out for. But all the other negative things that they throw out there, all the other negative storylines, like how's that benefiting me or how is that impacting me? So why do I really need to, feed my mind?
Exactly. You see what I'm saying? If it's not something that's directly affecting you or directly could benefit you, you got to really think about almost see your brain as like a computer that only has a limited amount of space for information. You got to be real selective with the things that you put into your brain, because all of that stuff is programming.
And sometimes you got to clear space.
Yeah.
If you want to change, if you want to get a new program, you got to clear the old program out. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. You got to clear the space up. So that's a good analogy.
No, 100%. Because then when I started learning about technology, I started seeing how close and similar humans are to computers. This AI thing is very scary.
Yeah, we're going to talk about AI on one of these upcoming episodes.
Yeah, the development of it could be good or bad for us. However, though, right, what I want to kind of leave us off on is that when it comes to mental health, this is going to be an ongoing conversation, right? Of course, right? But don't just tune in to these episodes, hear us, and then just click the episode off.
Right.
Or just go to the next YouTube video. Right. I really started like, okay, dang, what did Hugh say in this video? Okay, what did Trey say in this video?
Exactly.
Okay, let me sign up for that gym membership. Let me go look for a basketball court. Let me look into therapy that's affordable, right? I really do like this company called Better Health. It's actually the therapy that I went through. Which was honestly, I enjoyed it a lot. You definitely do need to shop around a little bit for the therapist that works good for you, because some therapists, they're solution based. Some therapists, they're
money hungry for sure.
Yeah, that's right. There's some therapists that are more so, you could say emotional based, right? Or whatever.
You get the whole spill out and just really listen to.
Yeah, so you're probably definitely gonna need to go through maybe like 2-3 therapists before you really find you the one. And I don't want you to limit yourself to race. I feel another issue that we have with mental health,
that's true,
right, is that we don't have enough Black therapists. So Black people, they want to go to a person that looks like them because they feel as though that person can relate the most, which to an extent is definitely true, right? But you got to remember that Black therapist, they probably still have some trauma too, that you know what I'm saying, that maybe they don't necessarily are still dealing with now, right? So they could definitely give you some insights, but don't be so adamant against trying to talk to a white therapist.
Don't limit yourself, basically.
Or a white woman therapist. And the reason why I say this is because I think I went through 3 therapists. All right, as far as us going into trying to recap for this episode, we definitely talked about a lot, Trey. Kind of talked about some of the things as far as like environment that affects people, right? How people can get access to certain resources like better health, how they should be able to not only, have that safe space where they could talk with somebody else, right? But where they can also do that internal work, right? Beyond just watching the YouTube videos or just reading books, right? Doing that internal work.
Also identifying some of the disorders like anxiety, depression and things like that. If you have bipolar, identifying some of the things, that people might be dealing with and working with. And also giving a good direction, good resources on where you could, deviate from that and try to go ahead and increase your well-being. So we did talk about a lot. And the most important thing that we want to leave you guys with is, like we just previously said, don't just take what we're saying and listen, actually apply it, right? And start to be in control of your life and start to put some of these things into practice and into use. So when you're just gaining knowledge and you're not really applying that knowledge, then what's the real thing that you're doing there? It's kind of for no reason when you're doing that, like that. So just wanted to leave that with you guys. Definitely stay tuned to the next episode. If you guys haven't checked out the previous episode, you guys should do that as well, because that's where we started this series, when we started to highlight some of the root causes of mental health and mental illnesses in the Black community. And this one, we were really talking about the surface level issues and how that affects today's society. But yeah, tune into the next one. We're thinking about doing a part 3. Not sure if we're going to do that yet or not, but definitely stay tuned. Some of our socials is going to be in a link in the description below, but we want you guys to comment, like, subscribe, and share for more. Let us know what you guys think in the comments. We want some involvement. We really want to know what you guys think on some of these things. Is there anything else that we left out that you guys think is a key component to mental wellness and mental health? And overall, what was your favorite points, or what is the thing that we need to prioritize as people? Let us know in the comments. Hugh, you want to leave us with anything?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely do your due diligence in the comments section, right? Of course, keep it appropriate, right? Keep it healthy, because we're going to read the comments, and that could could give us not only some insights, right, some ideas of what we want to mention or include in the next conversation when we talk about mental health. Because, like we said, this is an ongoing conversation. This is something that's going to take time for us to impact not only multiple people in the Black community, but for multiple people to start seeing real change in their life.
Right.
You feel me? So definitely thank you for tuning in on this episode. We appreciate y'all. All our socials, like Trey said, is in the description, right? We'll have some links as well for you guys to check out, some resources as far as things that you guys can do, as far as either getting, therapy help, just, some books, right? Some videos, some just basically some content material that feels that that's gonna help you guys internally. But besides that, man, I think that's a good closeout for this episode.
Yes, sir. Stay tuned to the next one.
Yes, sir. We out.
Peace.
Peace.